guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. Welcome, and we are glad to introduce our co-host, Simbaza, creator and host of the Simbaza podcast, hailing from the Republic of Kenya. Sambaza has made a remarkable impact in the podcasting world, earning 3 nominations for Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APVA. He was a featured presenter at the 2024 Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and a participant at the 2025 Podfest. Welcome, Sambaza.
Hey, thank you, Jen. How was your week been, or how was your weekend since last time?
Pretty good. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to be back for another episode. This will be our solo episode, so we don't have a guest today. So
I kind of feel like it's one of those days we just have to chill and have a great conversation, just the two of us, not with with somebody down here. Not that we don't want guests, but it's a fresh air. I can poke some knowledge out of you, some gems.
for sure, did you bring us an affirmation today?
You gonna have to make me look for affirmation. The affirmation, but I do have an African proverb for you.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah, you want to start with the African proverb?
let's go.
Okay, cool. All right, now I'm gonna ask it. You're the one who's gonna answer. Ready? Now, unfortunately, we don't know where this one comes from, but like you said, this is an African proverb that says, "The best way to eat an elephant in your path is to cut him up into little pieces." That's a
I have
proverb.
heard that expression. I want to say even recently is that I think people like in American culture say, what's the best way to eat an elephant one bite at a time or what have you like that. So basically, if you're trying to tackle something that it seems to be a really big task, step by step, have a plan. Yeah, one thing at a time.
Right, right. I think to me, it seems like whenever like we have so many tasks that come around during the day or during the week. So when you're
Hmm.
tasked with a lot of things, there's no need to start getting overwhelmed, because like you see, an elephant is huge. So what you can do is just cut them into small pieces. Like they say, cut it into small pieces, break down your assignments into smaller pieces, and then after that you'll be able to kind of take a step one at a time. Like you said, bite one bite at a time.
Right. So I like
Even
that expression. So.
there's this one where somebody said, when I was working at a call center, I was talking to this guy, and I was telling him, man, there are 101 calls in queue, and he said, man, I ain't even gonna worry about it. The only thing you can do is take one call at a time, one call at a time.
Wow. Oh, you would have to bring up call centers. That's in my past life too. Oh, I do not miss those days. I do not miss those days. But shout out to the people that work in call centers.
And I'm telling you,
Oh my God. But one call at a time, but yeah, you're measured on how quick you answer the call, how much time you spend on, everything is a measurement. So there's that elephant again, right? So, yeah. But so this episode will be a little different. We'll be getting into, as you saw on the title, a deep conversation talking about some of the things that have come down from our new president, Trump. And so we actually have a political episode planned in the coming months, but this is so important that we had to get together and talk about it now. So we're doing a conversation today, but we do plan to have an analyst come back and speak with us about like a 100-day assessment or analyzation of where we stand. So, but today, Sabaz and I have kind of did some research on what's been going on. So much has happened in the short time that President Trump has been in office. So we want to break down some of the complex pieces of some of these really important topics that Trump has brought along with the orders and such. So this will be a high level overview of the happenings from the president, specifically regarding DEI and the recent executive orders, some of the executive orders. Okay, so we're diving into some of the latest changes regarding DEI and in particular regarding the tariffs. Okay, and this is going to impact some of our retailers that we shop at all the time. And so we definitely want to bring that to you.
Yeah, look, Jen, this is to me. I'm a podcaster, and some people say podcasters are not supposed to get into politics, but I think we are at some point in some level in time. But whoa, this country. I mean, even up to yesterday, I'm going to touch on this one thing about the Riviera of the Mediterranean. You all know about Trump wanting to kick out all the Palestinians off of Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and
Mm-hmm.
create some type of business enclave or something like that. And that's just wild. A lot of things have been happening, but that's on a larger scale. That can be a conversation for another day, and it just baffles me. However, we are coming to what is at home because I guess this is where we start from, and a lot of these things are going to impact us, especially in our lives, starting with the DEI and then the tariffs, because all those I think are intertwined and are the most important things us as Americans have to be conversing on before we start looking outside, because
Mm-hmm.
these things affect us literally.
Yes.
So we're going to start with DEI. Now, I'm going to be ignorant here for a minute because I thought DEI, when they used to talk about DEI, I would think it's more about the black African Americans being allowed to enter spaces of jobs and being given positions. I did my research and I still find that I found out through there's some links that we'll share with you guys on the show notes if you go look into it. A TEDx guy talking about DEI, how we can do it right. So it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. They usually call it DEI, and what DI means, it just gives it's a diversity, means different people being brought into the workspace, and then there's the equity, uh, being equalized and everything else, like you're being treated as an equal, as to be able to fit in, and
Mm-hmm.
which comes into the inclusion part. Um, Summing it up, it's more to do with how we can gain access. Because remember, whenever the whenever we came out of slavery, and I'm using we carefully, uh, it's like you playing chess, not chess, you playing Monopoly, right? The white people would have the expensive streets right off the bat, and then you come in trying to make your dice through and you have to pay rent. Are you going to keep up with the money? No, you're going to run broke at some point unless you're on a lucky streak and jump off all those park lane and whatever that are on the monopoly table. So
Mm-hmm.
they came off ahead. And at this time, 30% of the executives that are out there, and this is research that has been found, are actually white men
Mm-hmm.
who are up there in high authority. So when you look up there, you see white men. Now, access to that, and it doesn't mean we're talking about men. This is men, not white people. Men. Even after this DEI being included into it, it has not changed much with what is on the top there. What they're trying to do is bring it from the bottom up, because they have not figured how to make it to be very inclusive, to where you have everyone together. So one of the CEO for Netflix was mentioned saying that DEI is like being invited to the party, right? And then being inclusive is now being asked to dance. Now, how
Okay.
you dance in something that you are you are not, you don't feel accepted in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's that option. So people don't understand what DEI means, and the functionality of DEI is whereby, I don't know. You can help me with this. When you employ people and they come to a firm, what they need to be able to be empowered to be able to bring in their strengths
Mm-hmm.
and their weaknesses, and not to be challenged for their strengths and weaknesses. Because guess what? If you're a team of 10 people and you all work the same way, you're considered a team. But don't look at the next person and say, okay, he's black, we'll bring him because he's black, and then he's black because he has this particular strength more than the other one. No, it's a team. We're all together. So all of us have to make this thing work together. And I think that's what people have to emphasize. I'll take date it back to my school days, my in university.
Okay.
We were always supposed to work into groups. And remember, we're multi. I think at that time we could say we're multicultural because we'll be white people, be Asians, and we'll be Hispanics. And guess what? We're working in terms of groups because when you get into the workspace at that time, and even now, the world is global. You'll be
Right.
doing a project with somebody who's in India or who is in Mexico. The way they think, the way they do their job is different from the way it is, but you're all a team. Whoever is stronger than the other one, you match and then you make a project work.
Hmm.
And that's the basis of what DEI was supposed to be. However, somewhere along the line, things changed.
Now, I want you to share what, as far as like what the president has said about DEI so that people know the comparative. Like you kind of shared like the intention of what DEI was supposed to represent.
Ah,
Now, Trump has made an order or a stance against it. And I want you to share for some who may not be aware of that stance.
oh, great. So what happened was when he got in, he actually declared that the executive order that ends DEI programs within the federal government, the administration was arguing that these initiatives are discriminatory and anti-American, leading to the removal of federal agencies and influencing private sector decisions, and they were rolling back some of the programs.
Hmm.
Um, if you remember, one of the things that he said, he was not going to consider this gender thing or the non-binary, and
Hmm.
that has done is it's actually targeted the people in the LGBTQ community. When it comes to people who are trans, they have problems now going into using or access into women's, like, for example, if you're trans and you kind of look at yourself as a woman, you cannot use the women's bathroom right now
Hmm.
because there's that issue of, okay, where do you stand? And people who are representing them are also in the sort of in the scope, well, I would say targeted in courts, because you don't know when you start to representing or you feel like you're representing them where you are going to be put in. Now, one of the things that is there is the Supreme Court also said that somebody cannot be fired because of their sexual orientation. But
Okay.
it's weird that the Supreme Court just made it plain. They didn't specify exactly what it is. So it leaves
Hmm.
room for interpretation. When they do
Hmm.
that, employers now want to push that needle and see where they can go. And that's been an issue with most of the people right now. They're scared, they don't know what to do. And I'm just going off of the LGBTQ, but I think I would want to also touch on the women as well, because women are not, whether you're white or black, you're part of it as a woman, because all this also helps you get into the system, whereby you get to climb up the ladder, see yourself as an equal, or see yourself bringing something to the table rather than you just being able to participate. Like, okay, fine. Like if it was an employment, you say, oh, we're going to employ people via gender. So in my company, if I have 10 men, I think I'll bring in maybe seven, and I say, you know what? I'm inclusive. I brought women into the table, but that's not it. You have to bring in people who are, yes, they're going to be competent to do the job. However, you, you are showing the lady that, okay, the reason why you're coming in here because you are great at your job, not because I look at you and say, okay, I'll not offer you this job because I know at some point you're going to ask for maternity leave and leave, and then I'm going to be asked to hire somebody, and then then when you come back, you start over from scratch. I have to retrain you and stuff like that. No, no, no. This is what DEI is supposed to
It
counteract.
shouldn't be that way, but
Is
that whole train of thought, I'm sure some managers have that train of thought, and that's kind of, sickening. But yeah,
and
yeah.
so many things are involved in it. And even when you're sick, imagine when you're going to be falling sick, or
Hmm.
you're at a certain it can work for anything that is open out there. But
Hmm.
generally, I can say, and we have also talked about it, being an African, when you come into working in the spaces of employment here as an immigrant, there are times you have things that are hard because they don't understand. And I think we've talked about it in one of my Sambaza podcast episodes where
Hmm.
um, they never understood why we take a whole month to go home. They know only 2 week vacations, and they're like, "Oh wow, you travel all that way for how many time? How many days?" It was unfathomable, but they don't
Hmm.
understand that's the way we are. That's the way we are with our family, and this is what encompasses all this DEI. So, Jen, this is my spiel. I think I've talked a lot about it. What do you think on your end?
So no, that's a good point. I did want to, share like the president's point of view because we see how that, even though that is his point of view, it is an order, and the federal government has responded. Like a lot of people have lost their jobs. I mean, you can go down TikTok and see people sharing, "I've lost my job," and and they're not just black people. There are a lot of the people sharing who are impacted by this change are white women too. Like you said, it impacts just women. Period. The DEI piece, and if you work in a federal capacity, depending on what you do, you could be at risk or have already. A lot of people like that week, people lost their jobs. You know what I mean? And it's kind of just sad, that it impacted that way. So, people on the federal level, they're at risk, right? And then you have retailers that have just decided to interpreted, what do I want to say? Their interpretation of receiving the interpretation of his order by, okay, let's change our DEI policies. And so we had all this conversation about retailers changing, rolling back policies and things like that. I want to have you speak on that piece.
Oh yeah, so the Target and Costco were one of the major ones who were
Mm-hmm.
in this because they actually pretty much a lot of the times in the DEI they were really steadfast on the DEI. And actually, it's not even let's not even say we'll go back to Target and Costco, but remember there's the DEI programs in all offices, all the offices
Yes.
required.
Yes.
Now, how many? Imagine how many people have lost jobs right now. How many people are going to be without? Could be even end up without a home. We could end up being homeless
Mm-hmm.
and on assistance. And with the economy the way it's going, hey, look at eggs. Eggs have become so expensive right now. We're looking at. I've had to cut down even my eggs. And there's a meme out there, a lady on a pole dancing like, "Don't judge me. I'm trying to buy me some eggs."
Oh Lord.
so, so we have
Wow.
going on, but you're looking at in the broader aspect is you just fired people who maybe we don't understand what their jobs are, and like
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those things that was helping everybody feel that okay, fine, I'm I'm heard. I'm going to be able to work in a job here without feeling like I'm just a just a number or a figure that's.
Mm-hmm.
And this has actually changed a lot of what people perceive. So we've rolled back to where we were maybe 10 years back, and to come back with it will be pretty hard because the ideologies are the ones that we're trying to get rid of. We just reaffirm them. And now back to Target and Costco. So Target and Costco were the ones who rolled back their DEI programs. I think even Walmart was part of it too. they rolled back their DEI programs because they were like, you know what, we support Trump, we do this, and we're gonna go do exactly what they were told.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is for a lot of backlash. Now, technically, we cannot go after Target because, and I'm gonna be, don't kill the messenger here. Remember back in the day when Target was putting a lot of the stuff for the LGBTQ Pride Month and stuff like that, they received a whole lot of backlash and they backed off, right?
Okay.
And for them this time, as a PR thingy, I think, to me, in my opinion, they were able to move out or back off of it easily because of what they had gotten before. Because it was like, okay, before, remember, before people were like, oh, no, 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 you're putting too many things here like this, they look different, blah, blah, blah. And now you say the DEI, they're like, okay, we've been told by the president, just like the way you guys told us, we listened. The president told us, we're listening, we're backing off. So
Mm-hmm.
Target is probably the ones who are sitting pretty, but the other ones have a lot to explain when it comes to why they wanna get back off from it.
Right.
So
I mean, Trump even the interpretation that of this order is even impacts Black History Month. You know, we're celebrating. We should
it's
be celebrating Black History Month, but in his view or his interpretation, that is part of the anti-American and something that he wants to roll away from
I think
celebrations
even
like that.
yeah, all those Hispanic months and everything is going to be taken off.
Exactly. Women
There's a
History
lot.
Month. Yeah.
I mean, wow. So, oh, by the way, so welcome anyone who's in. Thank you so much for joining in. We have a comment here from Tiffany, and she says, canceling DEI is not new to us because it is to those who traditionally had white privilege to hide behind. The way we move will not change. Oh, that's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
the way she put it, because I think um, she mentioned this privately that DEI has always we've always been fighting DEI. So it's just that we had a cover now, like somebody was giving us a representation, and
Mm-hmm.
we are a bit bolder and had at least a little bit of representation. But now we're still operating the same, but we're more educated now because guess what? Even if they've peeled it off, right? For the time that it's been there, those people have been sensitized on it, and we know the markers and we've set the boundaries. So you can't take off the boundaries and say, "Oh, because of this." No, 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 no. Department of Labor is there to help you out.
True. It's just kind of scary that your leader of the country is thinking that things that are like uplifting and something it should be celebrated are things that is dividing the country and things like that. Like I found one example I shared with you, somebody as far as like the federal piece or the federal agency's response, the Air Force took a removed part of like some kind of highlight of the Tuskegee Airmen. They took that out as a response to what Trump said. And like that's something that should be celebrated. The Tuskegee Airmen is like a proud moment in military culture, not alone, Black history, but because it's Black people because and he removed the women's Air Force service pilots in
Right.
the training videos. Why is that bad? It's something that is like a moment in a historic piece.
Uh, to me, I'll say this: as much as you might try to erase history, that's the reason why we podcast. For those people, Dominic, who Black is America, I'm pretty sure he'll go and figure out what's going on and write a piece somewhere. If he gets to listen to this, I really applaud him for his upcoming series and the previous series.
Absolutely.
And these, if we have 10, 20 of these, and I think there's this guy, I also listened to him. He was interviewed this morning by, not this morning, but he was interviewed by Talib on he's from Detroit,
Okay.
and he has the podcast is saying Detroit is different,
Hmm.
and he also did the same thing. He's putting stuff in historically for Detroit for people to listen, to watch and see. And his name is Harris. Okay, but if you go to Afros and Audio on the network, he's there and he talks. Detroit is different. That's his podcast. And then Dominic is another one. And I'm sure there are other people who have historical podcasts. Now, these are the people that we need to store this information, because as a podcaster, once you store this information, it sits somewhere. It'll never be lost. Some of these tapes,
Mhm.
like the movie that they found, the one that they created, this guy for, what's his name? He was a drummer, the Roots, the drummer for Roots. I forget his name, but you know him, the guy.
Oh, Questlove. Yeah.
Quest of, yes, he found those tapes. They found the tapes, and he made a movie out of them.
Oh, yes. About the festival, the concerts. Hmm.
Right. So you see, so these are things that we need to collect and keep somewhere and
Hmm.
record them. And once we record them, you can't erase history. You might do whatever you want to do, time and immemorial. I mean, if you've gone down history and you see they've tried to erase some stories,
Hmm.
you cannot. Either way, from each one, from the conqueror and the loser, the stories will always be there. So it won't as much as he may try, it's not going to work.
They definitely are trying because, like you said, erase history, but they're literally like taking certain books out of the schools and classrooms. Depend, Toni Morrison, different has books that are like have won awards and Pulitzer prize awards and things like that, or depending on the subject matter and the content, they're taking them out. But so that's why it's up to us to pick up a book, not just in school, you know what I mean, and read these books that are being banned, you know what I mean, like that's a podcast alone right there. You know what I mean, like banned books, you know what I mean, like that. Yeah.
I think we have to be intentional. Even though, yes, a child of yours will go through school via the curriculum, the American system. When they're at home, teach them about your history. Teach them whatever
Mhm.
history you have. Teach them. It may not be, people think about history as, oh, I gotta go teach them about Martin Luther King did this. No, 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 it's not even about Martin Luther King. It could be about what your grandfather did, what somebody
Mhm.
else down the
Mhm.
street did back in the day. Or there's a lot of history around. I mean, look at my city. I live in a small town city in Forney, but right at the city corner, there is a plaque that talks about one. I think it's Ford or somebody. One of the presidents came through, and a mechanic helped him. And the plaque is there to remember it was a black guy who fixed his car for him to
Mhm.
travel. So these are the small things that people want miss out on when they try and look at the bigger picture. No, no, no. Capture these small stories. These small stories, when you put them into a larger scale, you can create a whole movement just by saying, "Hey, we have these stories, and you can't take us out. This is where we belong to, and you have an identity." But if you don't, and people are not careful, I mean, you can lose a lot of identity just by that. But I'm glad you're.
Definitely.
I have hope. I have hope.
For sure,
Amen.
for sure.
So
So,
next we're gonna
yes.
move, right? I know. I wanna move to the other part. We're talking about the eggs now. We're moving over to tariffs, right? So the
Okay.
question actually is, what exactly are tariffs? I'll put it. We'll just break it down to make it easy. Tariffs are duties paid on goods imported into the U.S. So what happens is, um, the U.S. You can't provide everything. So you have to get some things from outside and bring them into your country. So in order to bring them into your country, there are tariffs that are going to be charged for goods that are being imported. So the most common type of tariffs are ad valorem, I think VALOREM tariffs, and in Latin for according to the value, which is represented a fixed percentage tax on value. Okay, that is a lot of language there, but that's we get the gist of the tax. You bring in goods, you're taxed on the goods so that we can at least get something, and then it stops so that it brings fair trade. Actually, the reason for a tariff is to bring fair trade. so that if there's somebody who's making something like that in here, they can benefit on the back end so that it doesn't hurt them in a way. Though that does not work anytime. But Mr. Trump, that's the president currently, imposed a 25% import tax on goods shipped from Mexico or Canada, such as avocados. Yeah, that guacamole and lumber. And remember, lumber is what builds a lot of the houses here, and we're having a housing shortage as we speak. So there are also specific tariffs that which are levied as fixed charge per unit, such such as if if the U.S. were to propose a $1 tariff on each imported Mexican avocado, it would replicate onto other things.
Hmm.
Um, so we're gonna look at. I think I'm gonna go down and break it down a little bit more on the way it was implemented. So President Trump has imposed tariffs on 25% of goods from Canada and Mexico. We've already talked about it, and then there's also 10% on goods from China. Oh, by the way, so let me tell you this: you be Shin and Timu guys who get that
Oh my God.
stuff. The post office has actually restarted accepting stuff from China.
Okay.
I wish I knew. I would have started getting mine before. So this is the reason. This is one of the things why they denied it. Apparently, the Chinese would were not charged on anything that was less than $800.
Hmm.
The value was $800 or less. They would not be charged any tariffs or any levies or taxes. So that's why a lot of the stuff that was coming from Timu, the weight was always changed. If you bought stuff, goods from there, they would kind of manipulate. And this is practice that's also done.
Hmm.
So that's the reason why
Hmm.
that tariff was brought. And he's trying to curb that. But I guess,
Okay.
and some people talked about it. So people who are buying Shein goods and Temu goods, yeah, just hope everything works out. So these measures are justified by the administration as a means to protect Americans from illegal drugs and undocumented immigrants. I don't know how that factors in. However, um, Jen, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to impact, like you said, the goods, and it's going to hit home to retailers that we use all the time, like your Targets and your Walmarts and your Costco's. So this is like the other side of that piece with the retailers. It's proposing increased costs due to these tariffs, right?
Hmm.
So let's see, Walmart has shared that their prices will raise, and they're all going to raise. Like you said, the eggs are going up. That the guacamole is going up. Okay, no more table side guacamole. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, some people even saying like we need to stock up on toilet paper again, just like back in the COVID days. I mean,
I mean, you'd want to stack up on guacamole because 90% of the guacamole comes off from whatever from Mexico. And when you
right?
talk about 90%, that's a lot. Yeah, we're talking about these Tex-Mex places here, Chipotle. When you go, hey, add some more guac. No, it's going to be expensive. You're like, nah, hold off on that. No. So yeah, it's going to be expensive. And then guess what?
Yeah.
If you ask for, because they probably have stacked up. And I'll tell you this, the USDA, they have places where they probably have stacked a lot of the avocados for the
Hmm.
next few months. Yes, they do have those reserves. So by the time you start saying no to them, they'll probably have it running for a while.
Before we would get to a point where like something's running out, you
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
okay. So
After that thingy of COVID, the debacle with COVID and stuff like that, where ships were staying up on the coast, and then goods were still waiting to get in. I think most of the businesses turned into doing that, and they stack up stuff. So I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line we have guacamole stacked a whole lot.
hopefully, I mean, just thinking back, I can remember even driving like maybe to a store 45 minutes out and shelves would be bare. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just like something out of a movie, right?
it's going to hit home. I mean, with the tag, with
Mm-hmm.
the when you look at the stuff, especially um, when you go shopping. I mean, like when we talked about eggs, eggs is one thing. I remember we used to buy eggs, the commercial, not the brown eggs, just the regular eggs, and they used to be
Mm-hmm.
put together in, and used to be like
A
$18
double pack.
a double pack. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
from Sam's. Now they split them, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
20. I think the last time it was $22 for both of them together. But they now start selling them in single, and I think single was $12 for, I don't know, 24. So
Mm-hmm.
it's things are tough. It's not easy for the regular family, and not even the regular. We're talking about middle class. It's still hard, and then you get the ones below that. Even if you're going to be living on assistance, you're still going to be struggling with that. Jen, do you have any slides that we can look into this and see
Yes,
how
you
we?
did give us a visual here. Let's go. Not there. Okay, so is that the one?
No, we go, but no, the next one there. Now this is the one for the clothes. This is a guy called what's his name? Uh,
Derek.
Derek. Derek Guy. So Derek Guy is actually telling you in simple things that the clothing prices if Trump imposes a 25 tariff on Mexico imports. You see your Levi jeans, $79 or $80, they'll be almost $100. I'm gonna just go to Tacova cowboy boots, 345 all the way to $431. Oh, by the way, I think I put a blog post about the way human beings are able to react in terms of adversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way the administration is always pushing onto China, saying, "Oh, China, 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 China." So they don't want to. They want to impose taxes on China with the goods that come from China. People are smart. Guess what they do? Now they don't even make their stuff in China. They move the stuff and move the factories somewhere else. So by the time they're complaining, the goods will show that they came from either Sri Lanka, Taiwan, or somewhere else. And then who are you going?
Okay.
So they've thought about this and they've seen where they can maneuver and move their stuff across. And here we are. But you can also see Nike, Hickey Freeman, and New Balance also produced in Mexico. So you got
So
them
we can
J's,
look for increases in those items too.
them collectors of them J's are the ones who'll be trouble. So now this is the one, the next one down there. I think is the one that is more. This is from Canada because actually
Okay.
there was a row with Canada. So you look at the stuff that comes from Canada. I'm just going to go through a few of them, the ones that I think will matter the most: aluminum, cereal, food, starch, milk products, wood. In fact, wood is the number one thing. Remember, we said lumber, and that's what we need to whatever. And actually, oil. A third. Is it a third or two-thirds of our oil comes from Canada?
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at charcoal. They didn't put oil here. They didn't. They did. They only put alcohol, alcoholic beverages, wool, animal hair, horse hair, carpets, rubbers. These are normal things that you would use.
Mm-hmm.
As much as they a little bit that you use, tweak it a bit, they're gonna bring it back to the consumer. So the consumer is the one who's gonna get hurt in the end.
Yes.
The next one, let's look at Mexico. Eh, and see, Mexico is a lot of produce. If you see down,
Yes.
there's avocados, meat, fish, seafood. You got dairy products, eggs, and honey. Um,
Tomatoes, onions.
right, and
The
then
produce
tropical fruits. Oh yeah, tomatoes and
pickled.
onions. Wow, fruit juice, fertilizers.
Oh, the eggs are in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. And the beer and liquor. A lot of that is Mexican, right?
Right.
Like your yeah,
And
coffee and
yeah,
tea
the whatever, yeah, this yeah, service, the service, what do they call it?
and sugar.
Coronas. All people when it's Coronas will be like, okay, we gotta, we gotta cut back on this.
No, you
Oh,
just gonna pay for it.
yeah, and And the last part is China. What
Okay.
what items from China could be impacted by the tariffs? Okay, here we go. Fish,
Mm.
vegetable fats, see, soap, lubricants, candles, cereal, flour, coffee, tea, spices, vinegar, apple juice, garlic, cocoa, sugar. Woo. Hey.
Cocoa.
Okay. This is interesting.
It is interesting. That was neat how you provided the breakdown like that. That was good.
I think people would need to look at it that way so that they can be able to tell visually. For those who may see, may say something and not see it, but there it's there. And I think we'll also give the links on that, on our show notes, so you can go
Yes,
and
we'll
click
do that.
when you want to see more. These are just snippets of what it is. Oh, by the way, Jen, I think I had a milestone that I want to share with you, and which Tiffany on the side just mentioned it, that DI was being canceled, and yesterday I got to be nominated for the city council board, for
Okay.
for the city of Forney. So I was officially put in there. Well, two people put in there, and it was a great thing to happen. So I'm looking
So
forward.
you are a candidate? Are
No, no, no. I've been
you?
confirmed. I've been
Oh
confirmed.
my!
Yes.
Oh wow!
So
Congratulations!
thank you, thank you.
I know
So
you mentioned that, so it's a real thing.
I went yesterday, and they took it in. So in the backdrop of the DEI, guess. Yes.
Wow!
Yeah, it's these things happen, so we just gotta take them a little bit at a time.
So you have a lot of meetings in your future.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of meetings, a lot of trying to make the city better, and hopefully I'll learn something. It's actually something to learn. Um,
Absolutely. This is
so I
could
don't
be
want
the
to wait.
start of something big.
Okay, back to the studio. We just
Okay,
took a
we'll
commercial.
table that for next time.
Yeah,
Your
we
political
right,
aspirations.
right. It starts there a little bit here in
Yeah, it does.
yeah, but all right. So back into the tariffs and everything. So I think if we look at it, Jen, when you go with your shopping list to the store and you're
Mm,
trying to buy these items, it becomes strenuous because at the end of the day, you, the consumer, is the one who's going to be charged with pulling up the, like pull up your britches or whatever, um, pulling up your socks, as some people say.
okay.
Yeah, okay. We use pull up your socks, right? Okay.
What does that mean?
Tighten up.
Tighten up.
Yep. Because
Okay,
at the
we
end of
know
the
what that
day,
means.
the consumer is the one who's going to get hurt. Because
Hmm.
sometimes some of these, and we've seen with these, with the Republicans, I'm gonna go with the parties. They will tend
Hmm.
to favor the rich. And what happens to the rich is that
Yes.
when they get these breaks and they get extra money, they don't go throw it back to the economy and go spend and spend and spend. No, they turn around and put it into savings. So the money does not circulate; it stops. And I think when you say it stops, it really does not stop because it goes into a bank and sits in the bank, and then the bank is going to make money out of it and keeps making the money. So it does not come out into circulation for us. Then you, as a consumer, when you go back to the store and you want to buy stuff, your pay has to increase accordingly to what is going on around you. So like the minimum wage. We talk about minimum
Hmm.
wage all the time. So the minimum wage has to go according to the way the economics go. If they don't, then you find yourself suffering. This is why you find people can't move past a certain level. People have these
Hmm.
problems, and then you go into getting government assistance, which again, when they try to make it that it's a black thing, it's not a black thing. It has been found out that more of the white people are in these government assisted programs rather than the people who are melanated. But it's just a mindset that we're programmed, or the people are being programmed, told it's a black thing. No, it's not. But back to the consumer. If your job does not give you a pay rise and they say, oh, the economy is bad, you're not going to get a pay rise, then what's going to happen, or what's essentially going to happen, is you are going to be on the losing end. Because if milk was costing you $2, and by the way, also milk has gone up, now it will be $3. That $1 makes sense, because imagine if you have kids, and say you have like 13-year-olds, those people eat like two,
Hmm.
three people, and you're going to suffer.
Yes, and put a or hold that thought, because you mentioned the government assistance, right? That's another thing that Trump did. And we didn't mention that, and this is really significant because so many people who are, reliant on this funding to eat, and and it's going to hurt. So what he did with this one, he temporarily froze federal funding to halting payments for federal financial assistance programs like SNAP, food assistance, education, healthcare, and this impacts the elderly too. Not just, I mean, I know like in his mind or some wealthy person's mind, I don't know where I did right if I hit something. In their mind, oh, you did. Well, I'm sorry about that. So I thought I hit a button. No, so they have this idea of a welfare queen. You know what I mean? Someone who's manipulating the system, and they're sitting there trying to, get rich on the system. But there are older and elderly people who just need to, pay their bills and get their prescriptions, and this is going to impact them in a very huge way, and it's concerning. So.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going to happen, especially when we talk, and this is where the whole thing comes up, and um, being taxed, and all these tariffs, and it all starts up there. When this, when they start making these changes a little bit at a time, they're going to keep going on and on. But another thing that I have noticed is most of the countries that are being imposed and being told about this, they're retaliating. And once they
Hmm.
retaliate, they just retaliate and keeping quiet, because
Retaliating
there's
in what way?
behind back doors, like with the Mexican president. I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
long post that she put out and said, "Okay, fine. You want to build a wall? Build a wall. There's
Mm.
7 million people. These 7 million people, they can stay back and stay in Mexico. Who's going to clean your house? Who's going to do this? Who's going to be
Okay.
working in the factories? Who's going to do all this stuff? You're talking about immigration. Okay, fine. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to come here. Who's going to come to Disney World? Disney World is a
Mm-hmm.
big place where people come from all over the world. Yes, um, you envision somebody flying from Kenya to, or from Africa, we'll say just Africa or Kenya, to Disney World. That's an expense. But how many
Mm-hmm.
people can get a few funds here and there and drive all the way from Mexico to come to Disney World? Just that is more. There's a lot of people coming in through to come and see Disney World. You'll get more money than one person coming three once a year or 3 or 4 times a year. Then you
Mm.
get 50 people coming in, and that's money.
Right.
But
That's true.
and this is where, at times I always talk about policies and politics. I hate politics, but I love policies.
Okay.
So when I'm into politics, people say, "Oh, you're into politics." No, I'm not into politics. I'm into policies. And if you've noticed, when I'm looking at all these things, I'm looking at them in terms of the policies.
True.
Like these tariffs, these are policies.
Right.
This thing about going and shouting and saying, "Oh, it's because of these people and that people and that people," especially on the DEI, the way DEI was mentioned. We haven't talked about the reason why they say DEI is not mentioned, and it's unfortunate. And we send our condolences to the people who are had this tragic incident in the
Mm.
plane uh,
Mm-hmm.
that happened. and it was blamed on DEI.
I saw that.
That is politics.
Yes. A narrative, right? Yeah, it's
Trying to
definitely.
sell a narrative,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
that's politics. You're trying to sell a particular narrative. So people say, "Oh, you're political." No, it's not political. I like the policies. What you're going to do to create this, and if you create it like this is what you're going to get in turn. So there's that aspect where we look at things. You look at these programs, like for example, even when you let's just say um, a simple program to assist the middle class people. Like say for example, we're given food, we're given foodstuffs, right? We're given food items and things that will help us maybe take off just a little bit of of our budget. So you save $200. You ask yourself, what is $200 going to mean for this family? So you break it down. $200 will mean that I'm able to go buy something extra here, something extra there, something extra. So let's just say $200. I'll eat. I'll go have. I'll take my family out on a cheap. Let's say every 2 weeks we'll spend that $200. But you need to look at that $200. Where am I spending it? Am I spending it in my local restaurant here? If I spend in my local restaurant, the person who's there, he's earning money. He's able to pay somebody. He's able to move that money around, and this person will be able to go to the bank and put the bank and be able to get a loan. He'll be able to make it better, and
Mhm.
then he'll
Mhm.
offer more services. And then, there's that idea of creating a business. So those are what I'd like to talk about or like to explore, because those are what you call the policies. Policies are the ones that drive the country and move makes it makes sense on the bigger picture. But people get enthralled into what you call this. You get enthralled into politics. Oh, calling each other name calling, that does not help at all. But once you figure out the policies, you'll enjoy politics. And that's my take. I think that's my spiel for the day. Have I said enough?
No, I think that definitely is a high, all the way around level view of what is going on. And I was just looking at like a response. You mentioned like a response, a resistance, if you will, to what Trump is saying. And there are, there's actually several people protesting against his policies, his Project 2025 agenda, and people are writing about it and marching about it, and that people are definitely sharing and expressing their opposition to what he's doing. Even the Supreme Court, was at the Supreme Court that says that his theory on immigration, that because you're born here does not make you a citizen, that they're saying that that is unconstitutional, and they're trying to we'll see how that goes with the judges and all
Still
that.
DEI. Still
Huh.
DEI. Still DEI.
Yeah, it's related, but I mean, people are definitely showing their disdain for it. So you don't have to just take it. You can use your voice in a way. So I mean, I think that's a good place to leave it for now. We're obviously there's so much more to talk about, and things are changing. You know what I mean? So we'll have more to share with everybody. But I felt like we would be remiss without addressing this at all. There's
Oh,
so many things,
and I'm looking forward
Bill.
to the 100 days when you have like somebody who's in the into around the politics and policies actually
Yes.
come and talk to us about this issue and see what has changed, what is moving here, what is moving there. Um, I also want to tell people, and this is my parting shot, right? Before we leave, there is a newsletter, and I'm not being paid for it. It's something that I think, um, to be knowledgeable, you will need it. It's called Tangle, Tangle. I'll repeat it again, Tangle, Tangle. It's a newsletter. You can go and subscribe to a newsletter. They give it to you once a week. One thing about this newsletter is it's balanced. They are not going to give you something that is leaning to the left or the right. whatever you read is going to be always middle on the middle ground. If they something on this side they do wrong, they're going to be told they did wrong, and here and they make sure they do that. There's a paid subscription and there's a free option.
Okay.
But the articles that are there have been so impactful that this is how I discovered. I was watching NPR. So the reason why I bringing this up is there are couples out there in the United States today. Like for example, Jen, I'm gonna throw this. You and I could be married. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, and we do not talk to each other in the house. There was this episode where the lady had to go outside her house to talk to the person who was giving her the interview because she did not want to her husband to know about um, political views or what they were talking
Mm.
about. Now, another couple were introduced to this magazine and on this newsletter, and they're able to sit down and talk about the differences just by reading the newspaper. So it is a balance, it is a neutral ground for where you want to get this information. If you think of something that's out there and you want to know, go there, take a read, and I
Okay.
trust you will get the right information. In my opinion, you will get the right information, and then now go out there and listen to this other noise and then compare. And that's my part in short for tonight. With that, I say, Jen, you take us home.
All right. So, again, we appreciate you guys joining us. If you made it this far in the visual episode, please like, share, tell a friend. And if you found this episode meaningful, we would love those shares with your friends, family, colleagues. Our collective awareness and advocacy play a crucial role in creating positive change. We invite you to stay tuned for more engaging content, and we look forward to having continuing these important conversations in the future. And we just really appreciate you guys for being here. And
Oh, Jen, before I go,
yes,
we celebrate in 1 year on this
who
collective.
is?
Us.
Oh yeah, oh it is February.
We started. Okay, guys, we started last year in February, and this was just a test. I know Jen said, "Hey, she sent me in the back, and she said, "Hey, Sambaza, I think we can do something for as a collective. Let's do something for Black History Month," and we did it. And
Yes.
after that, we're like, "Hey, this kind of looks great. Why don't we just continue and see how far we can go?" And guess what? We are 1 year down. Next we should come with some cake.
No. I thought you gonna say Black History.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a cupcake, and something. Because I mean, it's an achievement. Do you know how many
I know.
collectives last this long?
It's a
Just
lot of pod fade out there,
right.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah, I can. I'm usually getting stoked every Wednesday. I get ready and I'm like, who's coming next week or who's coming? You know? But yeah, 1 year. Congratulations.
thank you. Yay. Yay.
Thank you for deserving
Um,
this.
absolutely. Yeah. It's pretty funny how it worked out that way. But but no, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please come back and see us. We have some really great episodes coming up. We're working hard in preparing. Next week will be great, and next month will be great. So, we're working on some cool things. So we appreciate you guys checking us out.
And all the support.
Absolutely. Even if
Oh,
you
like and subscribe everywhere you can. Woke by accident, Sambaza podcast. Hey, we need you all. We need to get up there.
yes. Yes, yes, and yes. And everybody, somebody say anything else.
Actually, I'm happy today. I just didn't realize that it was 1 year today, and
Yeah, it is. It
that was
is.
so. With that, I say, guys, asante sana. That means thank you, Osambazaji, and thank you, Jen, for always trusting in whatever we're doing.
Absolutely. All right, guys, take care.